Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. Last week, I riffed off of some suttas in the first book of the numerical discourses, the Anguttara Nikaya, about wisdom. And the next day, one of our very hardworking board members came over and we had a brief talk about it and landed on the need for self-reflection. This is an integral component of wisdom arising, especially if you go with this definition of Ayakamas, that wisdom is the understood experience. We're having these experiences all the time, but how deeply and how well and how clearly do we understand them? And this really involves self-reflection. And that's what I'm going to speak about tonight. And this is from the second book in the numerical discourses, Anguttara Nikaya, the second book, Sutta 15. And it's very interesting sutta where the Buddha is giving a teaching to thank you, Samita, giving a teaching to his followers. And he talks about when there's a problem, when there's a rupture, and he calls it a disciplinary issue. And this is to bhikkhus, and the disciplinary issue is specifically around the monastic rules. But you can extrapolate out to just any unwholesome behavior, or a self-betrayal. And that's what happens. This one mendicant commits an unwholesome act by body. And it never goes into what it is. It's all keeps it, the Buddha gives it, it's really a teaching. It's all in general. These are principles. And a fellow monastic sees this happen, sees it, and then both of them don't handle it very well. And this is what the Buddha is talking about. And I'll just read this snippet from the sutta and then we can unpack it. If they, these two mendicants, two bhikkhus, if they do not thoroughly reflect upon themselves, it can be expected that this disciplinary issue, that is this unwholesome behavior, this incident, will lead to acrimony and animosity for a long time, and the mendicants will not dwell at ease. But if the one who's committed an offense and the one who reproves, both sides, each thoroughly reflect upon themselves, it can be expected that this disciplinary issue will not lead to acrimony and animosity for a long time, and the mendicants will dwell at ease. This injunction from the Buddha, how essential it is for us handling our lives, handling our relationships, handling our own minds, to reflect upon ourselves, to self-reflect. And the sutta goes on to describe how, why, what comes about when there is this self-reflection. And for the person who's engaged in the unwholesome behavior, there's like three problematic areas. The first is obviously the unwholesome act. And the second that the Buddha describes, the second is that he it's a he, they get upset about being caught. They get upset about being called out. They get upset when their fellow monastic addresses the behavior. And then the third one, something I think we all, if we self-reflect and are honest, have done. They go and talk to others about it. This is such a propensity for us to go and, rally people that will, keep us in our upset, keep us in our delusion, validate our case. Oh yeah, that's terrible. Oh yeah, and Brene Brown calls this counterfeit connection when we're bonding over a shared dislike, a shared difficulty. It's false, it's fake, it's very superficial, and it's very unwholesome, and it is not forward leading. The Buddha, if ever there was someone comes, and this happens all the time, people come and say to the Buddha, you know, bhikkhu so and so or such and such, this person did this thing. The Buddha always asks for that person to be brought to him and then asks directly, is it true? Is it true that you did such and such? Is it true that you said such and such? Cut out these third party. Go directly. I want to know your side. I want to know what you think happened. So this is the person that's engaged in the unwholesome behavior. They've got these three things that upon self-reflection, they see, oh, this is what I've done. And then the person that tries to address the behavior has two things. And the first, and we again, I can certainly relate to both of them. The first is that they get upset. They get upset about this problem. They get upset about this, you know, not very inspiring behavior. And then they make this big mistake of trying to talk about it, trying to address it while they're still upset. And the Buddha is extremely explicit that for those kinds of conversations to be helpful, to be productive, that we must take care of our own unwholesome part first and calm down and self-reflect. Yeah. I think it's in the Anguttara, it's in later in the Anguttara, in the book of 10, Sutta 44. There's these 10 things, and two of them are that we need to take care of our own agitation, and then as much as possible, as best as possible, make sure that we're trying to address difficulties in a relationship or difficult situations with well wishes, with we're speaking to this person for our own benefit and very much for their benefit. So the takeaway, there's really two takeaways from this sutta, and the first is that self-reflection leads to self-responsibility, and that's what the Buddha describes. These two people, the offender and the reprover, both reflect on what's going on here, what's happening, what am I really feeling, and they take responsibility. The Buddha says that, and it's in the sutta, that they realize, so the mistake is mine. And then it's kind of an odd simile that the Buddha gives, and they both think it's as if I've smuggled goods and not paid the customs on it. Uh, I don't totally resonate with that one or understand it very well, but I mean, they realize, oh, like I did this thing, I tried to shortcut something, and now I'm in debt. Now I owe something, and I've got this thing I didn't get cleanly. I didn't pay what I should have. And the mistake is mine. Even the reproving bhikkhu monk realizes, oh, you know, this is my part. This is what I did that wasn't well. And I can do better. It's always in the sutras, always self-reflection is always it's an uplifting thing. It's a forward-leading thing. So this self-reflection, it circles back to wisdom because it leads to us taking self-responsibility, which is an absolute game changer. This is absolutely us really coming into like adulthood. It's like really being mature, taking responsibility for our own words, our own actions, our own responses, our own attitudes. Uh, and then we start to have space and be free from others needing to be certain ways. And we just take care of ourselves here. And the other way that I feel like the other takeaway that it's the way that it circles back to wisdom is that self-reflection it's both based on truth and it fosters truth. It's us, Thich Nhat Hanh uses these words so often, looking deeply. So I want to talk about both those things, this self-responsibility and and this honesty and truth with ourselves. And first, self-responsibility. When we do see, our the need for self-reflection, uh, we get in much more in touch with what's really happening, what's really going on. And I want to segue now to talk briefly about nonviolent communication and the founder, Marshall Rosenberg, because he says all anger, all ill will, and that's what this reproving monk was having to deal with. Uh, all of it comes from unmet needs. And this is where self-responsibility can get so exciting, is that we can start to um, realize, oh, I had this reaction, I had this disappointment, I had this agitation, and then we can go a layer deeper. What is the unmet need? And this is where we can truly become our own best friend. What is the unmet need? Because our very often, I think much of our less beneficial, more unwholesome responses in life and feelings and moods stem back to needs. And often we're not in touch with what is my real need. And this is I'm finding it a very exhilarating framework. And I just looked on Google, I just did NVC, like nonviolent communication, feelings and needs. And I got 4 pages of 2 pages of feelings and 2 pages of needs. The feelings are emotions. And the emotions are on top of the needs, and the needs are the foundation. And then boom, you have and there's a whole page of emotions that we have when our needs are being met, and then a whole page of emotions that we have when our needs are not being met. And when we start to self-reflect and take self-responsibility, then we can get in touch with what our needs are and then be responsible for making sure that our needs are getting met in a wholesome way. And this is a wonderful progress on the path and wonderful progress for us in our relationships. Um, Brene Brown has written this book, Atlas of the Heart. Has anyone heard of this book? Yeah, Scott has Atlas of the Heart, and it's all about this that us taking self-responsibility and understanding ourselves and our inner lives. And she's a social scientist, she's a researcher, and there's a vast swath of the population has three or four words for emotions. Very, very, very limited. And that's why she wrote this book, Atlas of the Heart. She identifies and describes 87 emotions. Where this is getting much more accurate and specific about what's really happening in our inner worlds. So I would suggest just printing off these sheets from nonviolent communication, and I'm just gonna highlight just you know very very quick um, these universal needs, and they're biological, they're universal, they're human. These are our basic human needs, and Marshall Rosenberg has categorized them. And it's just done alphabetically, not in any priority. But the first category is autonomy. We have a need for autonomy. And you can see this in a young child, a 2-year-old, me, myself, I do, that this autonomy, it's a basic human need. And some of the specific needs under that are like solitude, space, choice, goals. This is our autonomy. And the next category is celebration of life. And we all have this. This is, I'll give you a couple of examples, like a need for feeling aliveness, a need for mourning, a need for authenticity, creativity, this celebration of life. The next one, just alphabetically, the next category, interdependence. And this comes to some aspects of our relational life, affection, acceptance, um, contribution, making a contribution. And I mean, there's 20 of them, and the next category is biological, physical nurturance, air, comfort, movement, exercise, rest, shelter, sunlight. And the next category is play. We have needs. We have needs for play, like humor, fun, adventure, some examples. And the next category is mental. We have needs, intellectual needs to understand, for information, for reflection. And the next category is spiritual communion, awareness, beauty, peace, serving. And the next category is meaning. We all have this. Very important that we feel some meaning in our life. And he gives examples there like clarity, competence, creativity, efficacy, growth, learning. And the next category he's got is connection. Well, so that's not alphabetical. Anyway, yeah, for inclusion, empathy, consistency, etc. And the last category he identifies as peace, for ease, harmony, inspiration, etc., etc. It's a very, very useful template for us, framework. Why am I so upset about this? What need? And very often you can go back, back, or down, down, down. And very often we almost get to things about survival. I don't feel safe. This is a big one for many of us. emotionally, physically. Um, yeah. So self-reflection leads to self-responsibility. And uh, self-reflection is also very much based on truth and and fosters truth. I'll say it so many times, but the Buddha says there's these two qualities that we need in our spiritual practice. And if these are there, no matter what, where we're starting from, there will be progress. There will be some fruit, some growth. And that is the power of observance and the power of honesty. And this really is self-reflection. Observing what's happening and being honest. So important. That's and I mean that's even ultimately the Buddhist definition of wisdom is to see things as they really are. And until we have samadhi and until we have really deep, still states of mind, we're always going to be seeing things in a diluted way. But we can see them in, less and less delusion, like better and better, the best that we can do. Um, and this involves this commitment to truth with ourselves in our relationship with ourselves. And when that starts to get stronger and stronger, it invariably spills out into our relationship with others. That we start to be more truthful in our relationship with others. And when we start to hold ourselves more responsible, this also is a wonderful thing that starts to happen in your relationship with others. You start to hold them more responsible and see them as more responsible. And this cleans up a lot of the the not very useful, not very um, healthy aspects of some of our interactions and some of our relationships, where a lot of times we're we're doing things that we're, I think, I'll speak for myself. I have had a strong habit, strong history of people pleasing, of placating, of comforting, and then a huge identity around helping and fixing and rescuing. And this is all not really in line with the Dhamma. The Dhamma is asking us to become self-responsible and then see others in that way. And I'm realizing as I'm making some of these shifts, it's on me, it's unwholesomeness in me that has actually um, underestimated others and actually not trusted them that they're doing their practice. They want to know the truth as well. Um, and then things become less codependent and enmeshed. They become cleaner and clearer. Um, it's absolutely a gift to others to expect them to be responsible for themselves, responsible for their lives, their decisions, their moods, their words. I don't need to fix it, and I don't need to dance around it, and I don't need to comfort it. You know, I just need to bear witness and and help them on in their own commitment to self-reflection, self-truth, um, and growth, spiritual growth. It's extremely uh, refreshing. Extremely, yeah. And really like the opposite of people pleasing, you know? And just to see more and more clearly how unwholesome people pleasing is and how rooted in delusion it is and how it holds um, both parties back, holds the people pleaser and the recipient of the people pleasing. There's something, it's not even real. Yeah. And another thing that happens when we self-reflect that's also extremely useful and healthy is that we get in touch with our own limitations and our own capacities. And this is also um, very conducive to clarity and to growth, that we're not overcommitting, we're not overpromising, we're not doing things that we don't really want to be doing. Um, that we're in touch with, and then when we do offer something, it's because we can. That's within my capacity. That that works. That works well for me. And I would like to offer this. And everything becomes much more wholesome and much cleaner. So, uh, self-reflection, a case for self-reflection. The Buddha says that if that's happening, it can be expected that there won't be animosity, there won't be acrimony, and that people will be able to dwell at ease. It's a it's a very, very beautiful teaching. So I'll end there.
Andamayam Dhammakataya Sadhukaram Dadamase. Sadhu, 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 anumodami.